nutrients in plants are bound up in different ways. We don't have the hardware and the enzymes to break down. We just don't. And they come with other things like phytates that will, or phytic acid, which will bind to minerals like magnesium or calcium, and they will permanently bind to that. We cannot break that bond, where other animals can, and because they've adapted to that, so they can break down these complex bonds that the plant uses to sort of hide its nutrients so that it's not beneficial for an animal to eat it. Then clearly we did not evolve on that, because if we did. Question from Wendy. This is Tony 13, the one with seizures, whose neurologist you don't like. Yes, I definitely don't like him. Has begun sleeping for 12 to 15 hours a night after switching him to carnivore in September. Is this something I should be concerned about? Seizure-free since October 5th. Had fruit at that time. No, I don't think there's necessarily, I mean, that's a lot, and so it may be that he's just, catching up on sleep and just pretty wiped out from it all. So I'd see just, if it normalizes. I would also think about what medications he's on, if any. The seizure medications can make you very, very drowsy, and it might be that he's just a bit more sensitive to those now. Since going on sort of full carnivore, you can be quite a lot more sensitive. And so that might be contributing as well. So I just see, if this is going on for like weeks, then there's something going on, and it's probably whatever medications he's on. Like carnivore is not going to make you sleep a pathological amount of time. The other question is, how he's doing otherwise, is if he's otherwise well and fit and healthy, and when he gets up, you can he's easily rousable. You can wake up and interact normally. He's not super drowsy and tired and falling asleep at inappropriate times. That could be a sign of something else going on that you probably need like some imaging done, just get a scan. But it is more likely to do with something like his medications, if there was a medication change, or if there was, or if he's become just more sensitive to the medications he's on. So I would think about all those things, and then just see if this sort of works itself out. And if it doesn't, then maybe go talk to his GP, and see if there's something else going on. His primary care physician, PCP, GP over here, PCP over there. Okay, but yeah, it could just be normal. It could just be that he's just pretty wiped out from a lot of things. So I would just see if it settles down, and then take it from there. Madeline asks, or says, I've heard Dr. Elizabeth Bright talk about that some people get tired going carnivore because the body starts to heal when it's finally getting all the nutrients in, and the healing process is hard work. So therefore the energy goes down for a little while. What are your thoughts on that? Maybe, it's certainly a theory that describes the observed phenomena in some people, but not everyone gets tired. I didn't get tired. I got supercharged, and a lot of people do as well. Their energy levels go up. One that certainly could be something to do with that. Your body's dedicating more energy and resources to healing your body. But another thing is that some people just take a little time to get keto adapted, and not that they take a while to get into ketosis. That only takes about 24 hours. But once you're running on ketones, and you're running on your blood sugar, you're not as efficient at running on ketones, and so your body just sort of, the mechanics of your biochemistry in your body and your metabolism start, just take a bit of time to sort of catch up. And but that happens. That comes in about sort of 2 to 3 weeks at most. Professor Tim Noakes, in the work that he's done looking at that quite extensively, found that really everyone will be keto adapted within 21 days, so 3 weeks. So that could be a contributing factor as well. I think it is in a lot of people's cases. Quite often when people aren't getting enough energy, they're quite often not eating enough, or they're not eating enough fat. And so once they increase that up, they feel great. And so that's another thing too. So there could be a lot of things going on, or a lot of things could be causing the same problem, I should say. Okay. Matthew asks, I've been eating carnivore for about a year, and I seem to be feeling worse now. Oh, that's not good. My weight has stayed a constant 187 pounds, 6'3", but I've gotten leaner. Waist hip below, which is so he talks about the sort of the ratios he has. So he's in sort of healthy levels, and now they've just sort of changed a bit. I never portion control, eat more than 1.5 to 2 kilos of meat and eggs a day, eat once or twice a day, and over the year average about 2 or less meals a day. Adjusting fat macros, did nothing, even going as high as 3.5 to 1 fat over protein by weight. That's a lot. 8 to 1 or so by calorie. Yeah, that's a lot for a few days. And I had no flare-ups or symptoms indicating immune problems or other illnesses. I have a hard time eating enough to be fully satiated. But even when I stop way short of that, I don't feel the need to eat again before many hours or the next day. Do you think I should get blood work done? If so, what? Well, it depends. I don't know exactly what you're saying, that you don't feel as good, you feel worse. But I don't know exactly what your symptoms are. Maybe, I don't know if you're in the chat, but if you are, then, just, maybe pop it in, or just message me privately if you don't really want to get into it. That's fine. So yeah, it really depends on what your symptoms are as far as what sort of blood work to get, if any. It also, is a question like, did you want to gain weight? Did you want to lose weight? I mean, you've gotten leaner, so, you've replaced, fat with muscle, which is good. And so, it's, it's those are positive steps as well. So it really depends on how you're feeling. And if you're not feeling well, you're not going to feel like you need to eat, because your hunger signals are different. And so, yeah, that's why you have to sort of go by taste. And so, you do want to go until you're fully satiated. A lot of people will undereat and they won't feel very good because of that. I don't think you need to go as high as, 3.1 to 1 fat, or, 8 to 1 by calories. That's a lot. I mean, if that's what your body's telling you to do and you're feeling good doing that, and you're not getting, violent diarrhea, then, by all means go for it. But, you probably don't need all that. And you do need enough protein. So you need enough fat and you need enough protein. Usually enough fat and protein shakes out to be about 70-30, 80-20 sort of thing, but it's different for different people. But you need enough protein, you need enough fat, and you need more fat than protein. That's just sort of how that breaks down. But yeah, so if you want to message me privately and tell me your symptoms, I can give you an idea of what sort of things to test for. Another question from Matthew is, given that we have been exposed to chemicals, heavy metals, smoke fumes, alcohol, plastics, and pollutants, and that we have eaten plants, food additives, preservatives, dyes, trans fats, vegetable oils, etc., for the last several centuries, can we really say that we are the same humans as we were 20,000 years ago or 2 million years ago? Does swapping the molecules we are supposed to be made of for molecules we are not supposed to be made of in great amounts and across generations change our physiology in ways that would make our bodies function differently to our ancestors? Some of us, like me, seem to have trouble with carnivore despite trying many things. We haven't tried all the variations that carnivore offers, sure, and personally, I'll keep trying to figure it out. But could it be that our bodies are so messed up that a true proper human diet can't do its job as well as it should for some of us? Anything's possible, but it's very unlikely. It takes a long time for a species to change in that dramatic of a degree. And when you're looking at population genetics, it's damn near impossible to do that to any significant degree, and to change the number of alleles and genes in a population, without like a genocide or like some sort of mass extinction, or massive immigration from some other area with very different genes. So as far as exposing ourselves to nasty things, that can certainly change you. I sent out, I might post it on the Patreon group as well. It was a very interesting video that was talking about, it's called Pottinger's Cat. And this guy, Dr. Pottinger, was just doing these experiments with cats, and he just sort of was using them for other things. But then he found that the cats that he was feeding cooked meat to, just meat, this was back in the, I think, I don't know, 30s, 40s, just cooking, or maybe even 20s, anyway, a long time ago, was just giving them cooked meat. He found that they just weren't as healthy, and they weren't doing as well, and they weren't, surviving some of the sort of experiments that they were doing. They were doing surgery on their adrenal glands to test, for, how that affected tuberculosis. And he found that the ones that were getting these adrenalectomies, that were eating the cooked meat, they weren't surviving. They weren't surviving surgery, but, there wasn't anything wrong with the surgery. The surgery had gone fine. And so, but he found that they had some cats that were just eating raw meat, because they just basically didn't have the capacity to sort of cook for all the cats. And so some of them were getting raw meat. Those ones did fine. None of them had a problem. They all survived the surgery without an issue. And so he started saying, like, oh, okay, just, cooking, take out some of these vital nutrients and change the game somehow. So he started doing these experiments and had these cats in these pens, and just raised multiple generations of them. And just, some were just raised on raw meat. Others were just raised on cooked meat, and they kept them in house, right? So the raw meat cats all bred with each other, the cooked meat cats all bred with each other, and they found that in the second generation they were even more sick in the cooked meat generation, in the cooked meat group. And they had like condensed milk and pasteurized milk and raw milk. They found the same things, and like condensed milk, like sweetened milk, was like way worse, or evaporated sort of things. Yeah, the condensed sweetened milk is like super bad for these cats. And they found that they just weren't doing well. And they looked at their skeletons, they looked at their bone structure, and mineral content, and they found that the bones in the raw meat cat were like 14%, super healthy, big, fully formed skulls and jaws and everything like that, and brains. And the second generations were like 2 kilo cats, and early on, and then the other ones were like 1,600 grams, and their bone structure was different. Their skulls weren't developed as fully. Their brains weren't as big. Their zygomatic arch, their sort of cheekbones, weren't fully developed and formed in just the second generation. And then they found third generations were even worse. Oh, and the mineralization was way lower in those cats that had cooked meat. It was only like 7% as opposed to like 14%. And then the third generation, their bone mineral density was even worse. So it was like 3%. And they said that the bones of the skull were actually like sort of like almost spongy, like foam rubber. And they had all these like fractures and broken bones and things like that. And these cats were not doing well. They weren't as interested in mating. They weren't very, they weren't very, they just weren't healthy. And they found that after 3 generations, they were sterile. They couldn't even procreate. And the ones that did, had stillbirths. So, it makes a big difference. And so if you're eating the wrong thing generationally, they're going to have some knock-on effects. They're going to have some, it's going to add up. And they found that it didn't just take one generation to reverse that. When they started feeding those, sick cats that are sort of 2-3 generations down raw meat, they got healthier, but their offspring didn't just go back to normal. It took 4 generations before they got back to where the raw meat cats were all the time. So it makes a big difference, what you're eating. Does that mean that you're going to be better off eating, the cooked meat and the condensed milk? No, absolutely not. It just means that, it just means that, we're sort of behind the 8 ball. We're sort of the, multi-generational cats not eating the right thing, but, it's still a good idea to eat the right thing. So I think that it really matters, what's going on and why you're not feeling well. I think there are different reasons people can, not feel great on a carnivore diet. And there could be a couple things, they're just sort of missing out. Maybe they just don't process things as well. Maybe they just have a different vitamin, demand. And it could be that just the food that they're eating for whatever reason just isn't quite having the nutrient complement that they need. Could be because of the soil in that area that those cattle were raised on, could be the feed that they were given, and so forth. But, there's a lot of different things that could be happening. And so again, just message me and tell me what's going on, and we'll troubleshoot. We'll figure it out. Jesse asks, does fermentation help to reduce the harm from plant toxins? If so, how much? Ancestral people all over the world seem to have fermented foods like sauerkraut, kimchi to make them safer to eat. Does this actually make them safer, or would these foods still harm the body over time? They would still harm the body over time. They aren't perfect, but yeah, they're better, and they also make those nutrients more bioavailable as well. So that's a big thing. These processes that we put these plants through. My favorite go-to example after speaking with Dr. Bill Schindler is nixtamalization of corn, and that's a process that the Mesoamericans who first cultivated corn used, that they would like soak it in lye, like a strong base, and for like 24 hours. They maybe do a couple other things. I don't know the exact process, but that would extract more of the nutrients and get rid of some of the harmful aspects, and most importantly, it would make more nutrients available, because nutrients in plants are bound up in different ways that we don't have the hardware and the enzymes to break down. We just don't. And they come with other things like phytates or phytic acid, which will bind to minerals like magnesium or calcium, and they will permanently bind to that. We cannot break that bond, where other animals can, because they've adapted to that, so they can break down these complex bonds that the plant uses to sort of hide its nutrients, so that it's not beneficial for an animal to eat it, right? So if the animal is able to get nutrients out of somewhere else, those animals just happen to eat that other thing. Those animals are the ones that are going to be successful and survive, and the ones that are sort of surviving on that planet are basically going to lose out, and they're going to die out. So you can reduce some of the poisons, but you're still not going to get rid of all the poison. And like lectins, a lot of lectins are heat sensitive, but not all of them, and they're not all 100% heat sensitive. So it's not like you just cook lectins and all the lectins go away. No, that's not the case. They'll still be in there. And also, I mean, what a silly thing. If we had to chemically alter something to make it just palatable and just not fatal, then clearly we did not evolve on that. Because if we did, we would have the hardware and we'd have the ability to break that down naturally, right? But yeah, so fermentation can help. Those processes can help, but they're not perfect, and they're not going to give you as much nutrition as meat will. So if you're in a bind, it's a good option. But that is exactly why all these different civilizations have these examples. People talk about soy and how great it is and how the Chinese eat so much of it. First of all, they're short as hell on average. They're like 5'6" on average. Adult men, 5'6", and not so healthy. But another thing is no, they don't actually eat a whole bunch of soy. They don't eat it raw. They eat fermented soy. They have that process too, and it's basically they use it. Traditionally they would use it to in case of like starvation, they didn't have enough to eat. They would turn to the soy. That was sort of like a backup plan, but it was fermented as well. So, but either way, meat's still going to be the best. But if you have to, that's the way to do it. If you have to eat plants, then yes, making it as safe as possible is the way to go. Laura asks, primary schools in Australia have something called crunch and sip, where kids must consume either a piece of fruit or vegetable every day. This is compulsory. Can you suggest a type of fruit or vegetable that will be the least harmful, or are they all pretty much as bad as each other? They're not all as bad as one another. I think off the top of my head, I think a tree ripened avocado is probably going to be your best bet. Not that avocados are perfect. Lettuce, you can maybe get away with the lettuce. I don't know, but like an avocado, fruit in general will have more defense chemicals if they're unripe and the seed's not ready. And when they ripen in the box, there's at least studies with tomatoes that I've seen that show that they don't actually get rid of all the solanine and defense chemicals that are in there. So that's why like vine ripened tomatoes taste very different to just mushy, gross box ripened tomatoes. So same would be true for avocados and any other fruit. And so I don't know for a fact that that they'll get rid of it less if they're box ripened, but it seems to be a theme. And so if we can get it sort of ripened on the vine, sort of avocados, maybe that would be the least offensive. But also, I mean, like, who the hell are they to tell you what to feed your kid? Your kid has to eat fruit, has to eat vegetables. That is none of their damn business. It just isn't. And it really bothers me how intrusive schools are getting nowadays, and just governments in general. It's just mind your damn business. Yeah, just say that. Yeah, maybe do that. Just say you have a bunch of dried fruit, dried apricot things. Just have little chunks of dried beef or something like that. And yeah, dried watermelon, dried whatever, papaya, something like that. But yeah, that's really absurd that they would force that. I'm sure that's not all the schools. Maybe it is in the school district you're in, but I think that's just ridiculous that they do that. Do they? That's bullshit, honestly. Yeah, well, yeah. They're lucky that I don't have kids right now. I would just be the most, like, I would be at every PTA meeting just causing trouble. And I would just like, it would, yeah. And I'd probably run for school council and just be like, this is garbage. And, but yeah, they wouldn't, well, yeah, they won't like the sight of me, I think, if this keeps up. Steve asks, I am 1 week post-surgery and of a full thickness tear of supraspinatus, standard decompression with a subacromial bursectomy, and the long head of the biceps tendon was debrided. I am 50 years old, male, and have been on carnivore diet for 2 years, eating beef, eggs, butter, and salt, and drinking coffee, though. Tut tut. And could you have any other diet tips for recovery, or do you have any other diet tips for recovery? Well, I mean, you could optimize things by just dropping the coffee. That will reduce inflammation, and you'll be less sore and feel a bit better that way. And just keep doing what you're doing. I mean, a carnivore diet is exactly what you want, to heal from any surgery or any injury. Just making sure you get enough, and just making sure you get enough rest, and do your physio, do your exercises. Those are so important. The more of those you do without obviously hurting yourself, re-injuring yourself, the better you're going to recover. And the work you put in now pays dividends for the rest of your life, because if you rehab this properly, it will be strong and it will serve you well. If you don't do it as well, it's going to be weak, and it's going to be a struggle to strengthen that up and keep it strong for the rest of your life. And so put in the work now, do push yourself, just don't hurt yourself. And, and good luck with it. But yeah, just, meat and water is the way to go. I would drop the coffee, but I already have, so I'm biased. Just in the comments, Madeline asked, going back to the tired thing, can it also be the intestines can't absorb nutrients and therefore you get tired? Sure, early on, but that will sort itself out in a couple of days, because if you haven't been eating a lot of meat, like if you came from like a vegan diet or something like that, your body's not going to be making all the proteases and lipases that you need to break these things down, because you're not eating any of that stuff, and your body's is efficient. Just like when you stop eating carbohydrates, your body stops preloading your pancreas and your beta islet cells with insulin. And so when you start eating carbs again, there's a bit of a lag, and they go, oh my God, you're insulin resistant by not eating carbs. Like, how exactly would that happen? Like, I mean, you name the mechanism, buddy. Not having carbohydrates, not having insulin around, that makes you insulin insensitive. That gives you a tolerance towards insulin. Really? Think about that. So, and of course it's wrong, because, you eat carbs for a few days and all of a sudden you're back making insulin in preloading insulin and getting it ready for you in anticipation of eating carbs. Same thing with the rest of the enzymes and molecules your pancreas makes to help with digestion. So maybe in the first couple of days, maybe you get something like, oh, I don't really feel as good and this, that, and the other. Sure, maybe half of it's going to be mental. You're just been telling yourself your entire life that meat's bad for you and it shouldn't be something that you eat and it makes you sick. But also that, you may just have a bit more difficult time digesting that, but it'll sort itself out in a couple of days. The keto adaptation for me, I didn't even have any of it. I just got better right away. But some people do take a little longer. So all of those things could be contributory. Yeah. And Ray asks, I'm going to be traveling soon to several conferences. Last time I ended up eating whatever was available, which wasn't too bad for keto. One of the conferences I am worried will have vegan catering, as that's what happened last year. Gross. Any advice on surviving 2 weeks around about that? 2 weeks. That's a big old conference. That sucks. Well, I think you just got to eat on your own, man. It's you don't want to eat that nonsense. Just eat before you go and just eat on your own. Just have your own food, and then just don't partake in the catered food. If there's nothing that I want to eat, I don't just eat because I have to eat. I don't have to eat. I've traveled on planes and 36 hours travel time, flight time, and they really weren't serving anything that I could eat. Literally like a pad of butter and one slice of lunch meat in this big old bread roll. So I ate the one slice of lunch meat and the piece of butter, and that was it. So for 36 hours. Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying this replay of my YouTube live. If you'd like to catch a live version and ask your own questions, please go to the next scheduled one, usually every Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. All right, see you then, and please enjoy the rest of the Q&A. But anytime I'm traveling, like on the plane or something like that, like there's almost never anything that I can eat, so I just don't. 2 weeks is longer. Obviously, you're going to have to eat somewhere. Well, you don't have to. You could go 2 weeks unless you're extremely thin or emaciated. But even slender people will have a couple weeks worth of fat available to them without too much problem. Think about it this way. Like a kilo of fat that sort of provides you roughly 3,500 calories. If you're 200 pounds and you're 10% body fat, that's 20 pounds of was it a pound? Anyway, so you've got tens and tens and tens of thousands of calories available to you. So you got 20 pounds of fat. That's a ton, right? So you've got days and weeks of fat available to you before you even start touching into your your muscles and your protein stores. I don't recommend that, but I'm just saying that you do have that capacity. So I would just eat on your own time and just ignore what they have at the conference. Really, that's what I do. Well, that's the questions that have been submitted, and if anyone else has questions, I don't know if Olivia, if you've seen a couple of questions that have popped up, you can let me know. And Paul says, have you checked Dr. Saladino's video on fructose? He cites several studies showing that fruit and natural raw honey doesn't seem to have the same effect as added fructose does. What's your take on that? I haven't seen those studies. I don't believe them for 2 seconds. But there were actually studies that just came out recently that showed, what exactly was it? So it was in people that already had like metabolic syndrome. They already had fatty liver, and they had 2 groups. It was like randomized controlled for that, and they had people that they were limited to 2 pieces of fruit a day, and they controlled for everything else as well. And they had other group could eat 4 pieces of fruit or more fruit or whatever that they wanted, and they found that those people in the more fruit group actually worsened their metabolic syndrome and worsened their fatty liver disease. So what the hell is that? That's showing something, but a lot of these studies aren't great. And so you can get a study that sort of concludes anything, and but you have to sort of understand all the different limitations of it. There's going to be a ton of different confounders as well. And, he's arguing that like in the matrix of the honey and the fruit, that for some reason, fructose doesn't behave as fructose chemically in your body. I don't think he has any evidence of that. I don't think he has any sort of explanation of the mechanism on how that could possibly be. So yeah, and there's also studies that show exactly the opposite. So I think you have to just go to first principles and just say like, okay, we know what fructose does in the body. We have clear biochemistry on it. And then people say, oh, well, that's mechanistic. I'm like, dude, it's in a damn biochemistry textbook. Like, it's just like, this is just what happens. You have like the Krebs cycle, and the TCA cycle. Like, well, this is how ATP. Well, I don't know. I mean, that's just mechanistic. I'm like, yeah, okay, but don't be stupid. Like this is an actual biochemical process, and you put that chemical in your body, and that's how it works. It's a bit silly, and so I think that sugar is sugar, and maybe there's something in fruit. Well, certainly there's fiber in fruit, and that actually slows your absorption of fructose. You're not going to get as much of that. That's true. That's why Lustig says that it's okay to eat fruit because of the fiber. But fiber is a problem in and of itself. There are other defense chemicals in fruit as well, and also some fructose is going to get in. It's just not going to be as much. So, depending on how much you eat, you're still going to get some. So anyway, I don't like this stuff anyway. You guys know me. And so Mike asks, what is my take on the Liver King steroid use revelation? Just that it really wasn't that much of a revelation. Like, I don't think any of us really took that seriously, that he was natural. Obviously, people can get accused of I get accused of doing steroids every damn day, but sometimes you're just kind of like, okay, like that's I'm pretty sure. Also, you got to look at this. You can often spot some of these signs of different sorts of chemicals that are being used. Growth hormone is called growth hormone for a reason. It makes your body grow, and your organs can actually grow, and they can hypertrophy, and that's permanent. And so your abdominal organs will actually grow, and that's why you get that sort of rounded belly. Like, it's still ripped. You still got corded, 6-pack and 12-pack or whatever, but it sort of bulges out a bit. Look at like Garanda and Serge Nubret, very slender waists, very slender abdomens. They weren't using that stuff. They were just yoked on their own, and they were actually living, by the the 9 tenets and principles or whatever that Liver King sort of uses and espouses. They were just eating very healthy and just eating a ton of meat and living to our biological past. And that's actually what Garanda wrote about. He said that, like, what do you think about this diet or that diet? He's like, I haven't read anything by any diet guru or any diet expert who's been alive for the last, who's been alive within the last 50,000 years. I look back at what we were eating, before all this, what are we adapted to eat? What are we supposed to be eating biologically? He's like, that's what I looked at. And he got, and he was absolutely ripped. So I think that it really wasn't a surprise to me. It was just like, I just thought it was a very, I just thought it was a bit of a farce, that anyone could sort of believe that. I didn't really care one way or the other. Like, obviously he did, but he's a bit of a gimmick. He came out hard. He had a big press team to make him, have his social media blow up, which is great. It was good marketing, and he wanted, and it really helped his brand. Good. That's great. But it was always a bit of a gimmick. He did really over the top sort of things, very funny, goofy sort of things that, it was just sort of, just him playing around. And that's fine. But it certainly didn't surprise me when that came out. It surprised me that other people were surprised. I didn't think that was something that we were taking seriously. The problem, I think, really comes down to the fact that, as Olivia pointed out, that people are talking about, like, well, this guy's like representative of this, primal carnivore movement, which he absolutely is not. He's got a lot of people following him, but, and that's a problem because, they take that seriously. But, people are saying that like, well, should I even be doing carnivore anymore? Is it all just a farce? Is it all just a hoax? Are these guys actually, in good shape? Are they actually in good health? Or is it just, they're just trying to sell something? Well, first of all, Dr. Baker and I, we're not selling anything. We're just, trying to get this information out there. We don't have a liver supplement company, and it's not that we work together, but I'm just saying that the two of us are two examples of that. That we're not selling stuff. Nutrition with Judy, she's not selling stuff. Lily Kane, she's not selling stuff. All these people, they're not selling things. Mike Matzell, like that guy's genuine. He's a genuine dude who genuinely cares about people getting healthier. So there are people out here that actually care and are actually living the way that they espouse and are having huge benefits from it. And you can do that in a number of different ways. We all have our opinions on what the best way is. But I think that's pretty harmful, him doing that, because now, like Baker and I get accused of doing steroids all the time. And the funniest thing is that like Baker works out like a horse all day. And like I sort of go in like, waves of like working out really hard and, getting a lot of gains from that. And then just because of the way I eat, I just sort of maintain that and just sort of coast on it for a while. And then just, life gets on top of me. But, a lot of the times in like the pictures that people say, like, they're like, oh yeah, he's clearly on steroids. You can tell by, his shoulders and this, that. I'm like, it's funny because like in those pictures they're talking about, like I just been in lockdown and quarantine for a month and like had not worked out at all. It's like, okay, like that's it's just funny that those are clearly he's just doing steroids. I'm like, I'm not even working out, so like what the hell are you talking about? But I think that's a big problem because now he goes down and obviously shows very clearly that he was using these like a buttload of testosterone, of steroids, and he had a big stack and just had a ton of growth hormone, which is why that gut's there, right? And not like a gut, but like just that sort of bulging out that comes from the organs sort of pressing out, and that's going to cause that can cause health issues as well beyond that. But once he does that, like everyone is just going to be like, oh, all those, it's going to be very easy to dismiss, because they're just going to say, well, anybody who's in good shape, it's not because they're eating that way, it's because they're on steroids. And of course that's not the case. I mean, this was someone who was very clearly on steroids, and for whatever reason he just wanted to say that he wasn't. Fine. But it did come out, and that's fine. But hopefully that doesn't sort of paint everyone with a bad with a bad tint, because first of all, no one was involved with him except the people who were, like Saladino was. I have no idea if he knew or not, but obviously they've partnered in business and together and things like that. So like, I've never met the guy. I've never spoken to the guy. I've never had dealings with the guy. Neither has Baker. Neither have a lot of people, so hopefully people understand that and understand that these are two very separate things. And this guy is in no way, a carnivore in the first place. The dude drinks maple syrup, like what the hell is that? And like, so, it's not, he really wasn't part of this anyway. He was saying, eat more meat, sleep, try to be healthy, exercise, all good things. I mean, like stuff that, anyone can tell you. But, he was not carnivore. He was absolutely not. I mean, good for him for promoting meat. I'm all for that. But, he was not carnivore, plain and simple. Okay. So a question from Paul. How often is potassium the cause of electrolyte imbalance? Increased sodium and magnesium, but I'm still having heart palpitations. Don't have symptoms of potassium deficiency. Well, look, it depends. A lot of people, it depends on what you mean by heart palpitations. A lot of people will talk about heart palpitations because they're having a very strong, noticeable beat, but it's regular. It's not fast or slow, and it's not, changing pace or skipping beats and things like that. So that's not heart palpitations. That's just a strong beat, and that's normal. That's actually just a sign of your heart actually getting stronger, and that'll settle down. When you get problems with potassium being off, you get serious arrhythmias like atrial fibrillation, where your heart will flutter and go so fast that it'll actually like you won't be able to like feel all the beats because they're just so thready and quick. And so you can actually have your heart going 160, 180 beats per minute because it's just flying, right? And that's actually dangerous. You can cause some serious problems from that. And then if you're getting that sort of arrhythmia, you can get worse arrhythmias, and you can go into ventricular fibrillation, and your heart just stops. That's an arrest, right? And so you got to be mindful of that. It's so unlikely that you've got a potassium deficiency or even a magnesium deficiency if you're on carnivore and if you've been on carnivore for a while. But you can just check your bloods and get an EKG or an ECG if you're in a Commonwealth country. That's what they call them there. So just get it checked out. If you're worried about these things, if it's just a normal rhythm beat, and if it's a normal pace, but it's just loud and noticeable, don't worry about it. If it's abnormal, if it's doing an irregular beat, and you're skipping beats and dropping beats and adding beats and things like that, then you need to get that checked out. You need to get that looked at on a tracing of the cardiac tracing, like an EKG or an ECG, and you can just get your electrolytes checked. I would bet that they're probably fine. And if your potassium is a bit low, then you just need to add in a bit of potassium salts, maybe get yourself back up to where you need to be. But it's super uncommon. I honestly have not seen people have their potassiums be off on a carnivore diet. I have yet to see that. People will supplement all these things and they'll say like, oh, it helped me, but they never do their bloods. They never say, yeah, I had a potassium deficiency and then I added these things in and then I felt better. I have yet to see that. Maybe, I'm sure it's happened, maybe, but I haven't seen it. And it's, and it'd be very uncommon. Your body is very good at regulating your potassium. So, so if you're worried about it, just get it checked, check your electrolytes, see where you're at. And Mike makes a point, honey gets mainlined because there's no fiber. Absolutely right. And it has way more fructose than even high fructose corn syrup. And then people do like the agave syrup and they're like, oh, it's even better. It's so natural. Like, okay, yeah, arsenic's natural. But also agave has even more fructose than honey. It's like something like 65, 70% fructose. It's crazy. And so that's really bad. High fructose corn syrup is 55%. Right? So, so it's way worse. Other question from Natalie. Can you go back over eating raw versus cooked meat for humans? Not sure I'm up to eating raw just yet, but I'm only 4 months in. I don't think there's any real problem eating cooked meat for people. Maybe just, less cooked, more is what I do. I prefer eating less cooked meat, maybe sear the outside and have it mostly raw in the middle, maybe just a bit warmed. Like a medium rare, like a rare side of a medium rare. I don't know of any like good data showing that, you lose out on a lot of, very vital nutrients in meat. Even, cooking meat can actually make some of these things, more available, make the proteins, a bit denatured so that you can actually absorb them easier. That's true. We do know that. As there are a lot of people that say, think that raw meat is just, they feel so much better on it. Maybe. I've eaten raw meat and I've eaten cooked meat. I've never really noticed the difference between the two, but there could be, Eskimos and Inuits, they just eat basically raw meat the whole time. A lot of people do, especially up north, with no firewood or anything like that. But also at the same time, we've been cooking for literally hundreds of thousands, if not over 1 million years. So I think we're probably adapted at this point to cook our meat, and that we should be okay. Cats are very, they're more obligate carnivores than like dogs and wolves, right? They really have to have the nutrients that are in raw meat. They just have to have it, and like if they really eat almost any plant will cause them serious harm. So I think that I think we're probably fine. I don't know of I don't have any good reason to say otherwise anyway. Hey guys, just want to take a second to thank our sponsor, Carnivore Bar. I don't promote many products because honestly, all you need to be healthy is to just eat meat. For those times that you're out hiking, road tripping, or stuck at work and you want a nutritious snack that is just meat, fat, and salt if you want it, the Carnivore Bar is a great option. So I like this product not because it's just pure meat, but also because I want the carnivore market to thrive as well. And the more we support meat-only products, the more meat-only products there will be available in the mainstream. So if this sounds like something you'd like to get behind, check it out using my discount code Anthony to get 10% off, which also applies to subscriptions, giving you 25% off total. All right, thanks guys. So just Serena was saying, what I hate about Liver King is that people will question everything he says now because he's dishonest, and people who need this way of eating may not believe him about it. It's sad. Yeah, well, and that's a problem, like everything's going to get thrown away. They'll throw out the baby with the bathwater, and hopefully that doesn't happen. And so I think it's good that Dr. Baker sort of came out and just said, yeah, this is what that was. But that was the thing. Like I was never, of the mind that people were taking this guy seriously, and people that thought that this was like the way to do things, and if this was anything else besides just him having fun and just being a bit of a gimmick to sell his liver pills. I never thought this was anything else. So, hopefully most people, just took that the right way as well. Yeah, I didn't see Saladino's discussion on that. I should probably take a look and just sort of out of curiosity, I guess. But, if he didn't know, I think that's pretty remarkable, because the guy was injecting, multiple things multiple times a day. And, if you're good friends with someone and you're like staying at each other's houses and, doing things together, like you would probably find out. And like, and he suspected, he says, I think he damn well knew, that's my suspicion. Like, I don't know, but like, you just, I think it's just, it wasn't any of his business to go and, talk about, he's friends with the guy, he's in business with him. So obviously he's, it doesn't really make sense for him to go around saying like, oh, I bet he's on steroids, whether he thinks that or not, it's not really going to suit his purposes. But yeah, exactly. It's money. Like, it's, he's got a vested interest in this going well as well. How do I feel about not making it through November? Just fine. I hated that mustache. It's just awful. It's just, it's a funny cause. It's a funny thing to do for a good cause, but I guess that's the fun of it. Yeah, I saw that Nina stopped by with a good book club. That's really awesome. That was really nice of her to stop by. I wish I was able to come by with you guys as well. But I was not, unfortunately, doing a lot of on calls. I'm on call like every other weekend now, which is just ridiculous. So I'm like working like 60 hours straight every other weekend. And that's just because I'm being punished for going to Costa Rica to do this reversed show. And because I'm taking more time off than other people, I'm doing way more on call than other people as well. And in a shorter period of time because of the time I'm taking off as well. So, but it's all right. It's fine. You have to, to make up for things for other people covering for you. But yeah, that'd be great. That was great that Nina could stop by. She's awesome. I really enjoyed talking to her. She's such a nice person and just such a pleasure to talk to. So that was great that she was able to stop by. And any insights from Jordan Peterson? Yeah, Jordan Peterson's in Perth, so he's actually doing another talk tonight. He's actually doing it right now. I would have liked to actually seen it again. I have a feeling that he actually talks about different things every day on every little thing, so that the shows are different, and just different things come up. But it's actually cool. So I was front and center. I was front row in the center. And so he was up there and he like talks to you, which is really cool. So he'll get up and he'll like point at you and be like, so you see this, and he'll make the point to you. And then he'll go and keep talking. And then he'll make another point to someone else. And so he keeps picking someone out of the audience, and he speaks directly to them, looks them dead in the eye, and talks directly to them. It's quite engaging, and it's quite a good technique, I think. And but there was a lot of insights. I really wish that I had a recording of it, because the guy just went on this, amazing, spiel about, going from, interpersonal connections, and, just working on he was talking about one of the rules in particular was, pick something and work and give it all you have, work really hard at it, give it all you have, and see what happens. Right. He was talking about that. And he was talking about, why this makes a difference and all that sort of stuff. He was going back to Nietzsche and all these different, historical examples. And it was really, really, really good. But a lot of depth, a lot of content that you would benefit by hearing multiple times, because it's coming at you pretty fast. And he is, he's got this sort of stream of consciousness sort of thing that it's just going and going and going. And you're just like, wow, this is pretty incredible. So it was really a pleasure to go listen to that. And I had sort of a VIP afterwards, so everyone sort of lined up and, took pictures with him and shook his hand and things like that. He's a really, really nice guy. Really went out of his way. Every single person came up, he's like, hey, how are you doing? It's great to meet you. What's your name? That's really nice. All that stuff. I really wanted to sort of, say like, oh, hey, actually, I've well, obviously you want to say how much you appreciate him and how much you appreciate it, the things that he said and the things that he's done. And I think, obviously he'd like hearing that as well, because it helps keep him, motivated. And I wanted to sort of say like, oh, actually, I'm going to be, on your daughter Michaela's show, talking about carnivore stuff for her 5-year carniversary, and just sort of, get that connection and things like that. But, I just didn't feel it was, right to sort of ambush him sort of as we're like taking a picture. A lot of people were sort of doing that and trying to do that. And they were saying explicitly, like, don't do that. Don't like try to talk to him. We got 130 people trying to do this. So, keep it brief, have respect for people behind you. So I didn't ambush him like that. I didn't want to sort of, do that, but no, it would have been really nice. I really, really enjoyed meeting him. He's one of those people that you would just absolutely love to like know on a personal basis and just be able to like just hang out and talk to about, real things. And because the man really has just a depth of understanding and insight into so many things that it just, it would just be an absolute joy to talk to him. And now he says that he and Michaela are the reason I started this way of eating. Love politics and am right-minded. Came across Jordan years ago and adore him. They are amazing humans. They really are. And Michaela's story is really, 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 inspiring, as Mike says. And so is Jordan's, dealing with his health issues that he doesn't really talk about, but he had them. And as well as, depression and anxiety, and it really helped. It really, really helped him. And so that's it's really great to see, good things happening to good people. And I started following him really early on. Like I saw one of the earliest sort of hit piece videos that when he came out and spoke out against Bill C-16 in Canada, compelling speech, forcing you to say someone's preferred gender. And not even protecting this, but just forcing you. And he was saying, hey, that's not safe. Like, this isn't a good road to go down. Compelling speech. This is actually where, the Nazis came from. This is where the communist dictatorships, this is how they started. And this isn't a good road to go down. He was making, compelling argument. And people were like, oh, you're transphobic, homophobic, you horrible person. They tried to get him fired from his tenured position, which is, good thing that he had a tenured position. He could actually speak out without fear of losing his job. But I saw them try to like do this we got you sort of video on him, and he just took it all and he weathered and he ran it right back at him. They just did not know who they were dealing with. And I watched him and I was like, man, this guy knows what he's talking about, and he's doing really well. And so that's why I started looking into him more. And I was quite impressed by him. And one of the early things that, I saw him saying things and coming to conclusions, and actually even using similar vernacular of Thomas Sowell, and he come to similar conclusions. I was just like, has this guy read Soul? Like, I mean, this guy is really, talking about like some very deep, insightful things in the way Soul does. And it turned out that no, he had not read him. And so I was even more impressed because, and then I think later he did start reading Thomas Sowell, after he started probably hanging out with Ben Shapiro more. But that even impressed me even more because he had come to, the same conclusions or similar conclusions about certain things as not everything. Obviously, he's not an economist, so he didn't necessarily come to all those conclusions, but certain things about, just society and politics and things like that. He came on to just from the angle of clinical psychology and history, knew a lot about the history, and obviously Soul did as well. And so I was actually quite impressed by that as well. I was like, wow, this guy's a level of thinker like Soul, which is no small compliment, especially for me. And now it says, yeah, the biblical series on YouTube is amazing. I've really wanted to see that. I'm not like a biblical scholar, but I know a few things, and it'd be really interesting to see that on it just out of interest. Yeah, that's really cool. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. That's been about 10 o'clock. If anyone has any burning questions, maybe we can pop them through. But otherwise, we can sort of wrap it up here. So Mike says, please pass along to Elle. It was great to see her. Yeah, absolutely will. And hopefully she sort of liked hanging out. It was nice to have the company. And yeah, okay. And yeah, and if you guys haven't signed up for Discord, do. It's a really good, thriving community. Everyone's being really active and great on it. And so that's hopefully something we can just continue to grow and people can continue to get a lot out of. And the book club as well, doing the brain energy book by Dr. Palmer from Harvard. Very interesting. And it goes exactly in line with everything that we've been learning and talking about, which is diet makes a big difference, and it changes your metabolism. And if your metabolism changes, your biochemistry changes, and everything changes. And so a lot of these ills, such as major depression or even schizophrenia, are being found to be more of a problem with the mitochondria again. So it just keeps coming back to the mitochondria. Everyone, we knew this with Otto Warburg. He was showing that the mitochondria play a huge role in our overall health. That cellular level health, that subcellular level health, played a huge role in our overall health. And he was showing this very well. And he had 30 years of Nobel Prize caliber research, that came out, and more really. And then, Watson and Crick came out with DNA, and they're like, this is it. This is the roadmap to everything. That's it. Can't be anything else. This runs everything. And it's like, not so fast. Obviously very important. Your DNA is very important. But it's not actually what, runs in the day in, day out, functions of your cell. Your mitochondria are really important for that. And so your overall, meta interactions with all your cells are really come down to the mitochondria, not so much the DNA. So yeah, so we're getting back to that. And this is just another piece of that puzzle, showing the bigger picture of how we're supposed to eat, how we're supposed to live, and why that matters, and how things break apart when you don't. So great. All right, guys. So I think that's a good place to wrap. And thank you very much, everybody, for coming on. Thank you very much for everyone submitting questions. And this will go up on YouTube, and same link will work for it. And I will, right now, because I'm thinking about it, upload the Zoom from Sunday, because I'm very sorry. That's been on my list of things to do and just didn't do it. So I'm very sorry about that. Mike says, can I do a video with another expert on mitochondria, please? On mitochondria specifically? Yeah, probably. I mean, Thomas Seyfried, we went into a lot of things on the mitochondria. And actually, I did a podcast with Professor Laszlo Borosh, who is a professor of pediatrics at UCLA Medical School. And he did like just a ton of research. That was his main thing. He ran a lab there. And so he went into a lot of the mitochondria and how that really mattered in the cellular function and the entire tissue and animal level. And he went all the way down to the subatomic, submolecular level, I should say, of deuterium, and how actually too much deuterium actually bungs up your mitochondria, and then bunging up your mitochondria then have all these knock-on effects and problems. And so that will come out in the next sort of week or two. I'm gonna publish that. So that's more stuff on there. But yeah, maybe I could see if there's someone who's really just, in-depth knowledgeable about the mitochondria. I mean, Laszlo knew his stuff. I mean, dude teaches biochemistry and things like that at UCLA and molecular biology and all that stuff. And now he teaches what does he call it? Deuteronomics or something like that, like the science of deuterium and how that affects our health. And he has a funny story too, because he was quite skeptical about deuterium at first, and he just thought it was absolute hogwash. And then they sort of convinced him to do these tests. And he's like, well, if you want me to do these tests, it costs money. So, it'll be $25,000 per cell line. This is like 20, 30 years ago. And they were like, yep, here you go. Here's 75 grand. We'll do 3 cell lines. And he's like, oh, okay, these guys are serious. And then he actually ran the studies and the tests that they wanted for him. And he was just like, oh my God, these guys are right. And then he just like showed it and proved it. He's like, Jesus, like, okay, right. And then he started really looking into it from there. So it was very interesting. But yeah, that'll come out too. And yeah, great. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for joining, and we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot. Have a good day. Carnivore, you have to look at stress and get out other things in your environment, and cut out the beef, pork. No, sorry, not the beef. The pork, chicken, and farmed fish. Especially farmed fish is terrible. Just cut out the dairy for good measure. You just play it as safe as possible, and just go red meat and water.